My name is Dimitri DeVos, and I am your host. Today, we'll tackle some of the challenges IT leaders have managing and optimizing cloud costs. Cloud costs can be slippery, and if they aren't top of mind, they should be. We're going to cover some of the top reasons cloud costs can be efficient, and we're going to talk a little bit about where and how IT leaders should start the process. So let's get into that. As most of you would agree, public cloud expenses can be a slippery slope and easily get away from us. These challenges can begin with the initial budgeting exercise, and without good tools and processes, the rate at which cloud costs can grow for an organization can quickly escalate. In fact, CloudZero's 2022 State of the Cloud Cost Intelligence Report cites that 6 out of 10 organizations have higher than expected cloud costs. 451 researches the January 2022 Pathfinder report. They stated that 52% of the respondents cited cloud cost optimization as a challenge they are currently attempting to solve. And in the recent Gartner report, How to Identify Solutions for Managing Costs in the Public Cloud IaaS, the Gartner analysts Brandon Medford and Craig Lowry estimated that as much as 70% of cloud costs are wasted. To help me unpack this and provide some guidance on how best to approach continuing and optimizing cloud costs, I've asked one of TierPoint's esteemed cloud solutions architect, Adam Lawson, to join us. Adam has over 15 years of IT experience, and I'm sure he has a wealth of knowledge to share. Thanks for joining us, Adam.
Hey, Dimitri, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Great. Hey, so I've talked to many clients, and some state they believe some say that they're concerned with cloud costs, and others, they believe they've got it under control and they're doing pretty well. That said, I get a sense that there's more to it than people are considering. You know, having it under control seems fine, but if you factor in the news about the layoffs, these other indicators that say there's a threat of a recession coming in, shouldn't this be top of mind for everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because even in the data points you mentioned, over half of companies are struggling with this topic, and this topic specifically centered around cost. When you think of CTOs like David H. from Basecamp, when they're going through their costs and understanding, all right, but where is this spend? What is it doing? There's this overarching ethos that aligns with what you just said. We've got Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Salesforce, everyone making layoffs. There's an ethos around cash positive. So understanding what that cost is, then how to optimize it for your organization.
Okay, so there's probably a problem. There's probably an opportunity here to improve costs at the very least.
Yes.
The question is, how do they even know if they are overspending?
That's a great question. And the first area to start is really understand the scope. And when I think of scope and I think of cloud, I really want to look at the whole entire landscape, not your entire portfolio per se, but cloud has come in many shapes and sizes. And in many cases, it's almost every organization has adopted the cloud in some capacity. And what I mean there is there's your traditional infrastructure, IaaS data center, Azure, AWS, operations, infra play. But then there's also collaborative apps like M365, Google, Salesforce, ERP, you name it. Every organization is using cloud at some capacity. So understand the scope of which area you want to go after. Are you going to examine all of it, or are you going to examine a particular piece of it? Then once you've got the scope established, look at how are we procuring that? What are those contracts? What are those terms? Are we getting the value out of it? Are we getting the discounts that we were promised? Are we using pay-as-you-go models, or are we leveraging things like reserved instances to get some of those discounts? Once you have that, then it's a matter of understanding, drilling further into those particular units and then taking out some relevant data to make some actions there.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. And, from what I understand or heard from you is you have to look at all the different platforms, understand exactly where your resources are going, where you're spending that. And then you kind of dig down into some of the deeper levels. But where would you advise leaders to start?
Yeah, that's another great question. And I guess I'll unpack that and answer it in a few ways. And the first, I'll start with some tactful information. You can always start when you're looking at a typical data center infrastructure, cost optimization, where are our costs? You can always leverage the cloud native tools, right? Azure, AWS, and others have their native tools built in, and you can start taking a look at it. However, as we know, cloud native tools can be hard to digest and understand. So then you can leverage third-party tools to also plug into your environment, start surfacing that detail, and then digesting it. And some of that information can be quickly accessible almost immediately. And then you can start taking insights like, hey, I've over provisioned this workload. Do I really need such high compute resources? Can I turn that down? Then looking at things like I've spun up these servers, but no one's accessing it, or these servers are spun up, but they're turned off. Can I actually delete and remove them? So it's simple insights like that that are very tactful. And then it's a matter of understanding, again, where those costs are, and then aligning that to what the business objective was at the time. Many organizations through the pandemic had to quickly go out and just start consuming cloud and adopting. We've got everyone working from home. We need to collaborate remotely. We've got education customers that need to school their students remotely. So quickly onboarding all of these solutions. So again, once you understand scope, the business objective that was trying to be attached there, you can start seeing, oh, well, maybe there's some duplication here. I've got Microsoft licensing, which includes Teams. I've also got WebEx and Zoom. Maybe we consolidate into a single collaborative platform. So scenarios like that, that's where you can start quickly understanding where your money is going and then start making some changes there to recoup some of that cost.
Okay, so I get it. You're, from a tactical level, start there. What is the low hanging fruit? What are some of the duplicate resources? Am I double spending on licenses? Do I have more provision than I actually need? That's pretty straightforward. Becoming more strategic about that, that seems a little bit more difficult. You said something aligning to the business objectives. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's interesting because, that reminds me of a comment my mom raised us on in growing up as kids with 4 kids in the household and 3 boys. We all lived in one room. And her statement was, possession is 9/10 of the law. And that's how we settle a lot of our arguments. Well, who has it? It's theirs. Dealt with it. Now, as customers, perception is 9/10 of the law. And so customers and many organizations have gone through and are continuing to go through some kind of transformational objective in their organization. But many organizations still see IT as a cost center. That's just where budgets go to die. And it really is. And so we have to be empathetic. And when we, as a strategic partner, hear some of these customers coming to us, hey, we need to understand our cloud spend. Can we control, et cetera, et cetera? You have to empathize with them and show up and go, all right, where is this coming from? Is it just someone, a senior leadership said to you, all right, IT director, CIO, CTO, here's an Excel spreadsheet. We need to recoup this cost by X amount. And then start level setting with their conversations. From there, this is where cloud complexity, various facets of it's a better together story. Everyone needs to come to the table. You quickly start getting into a boil the ocean conversation. But to truly understand TCO, ROI, business value, you do have to bring in all of those concerns together. And so that's where leveraging someone like TierPoint, a strategic partner that has a cost optimization program, can really partner with you to dive through those conversations, have some of those challenges identified, and then aligning that. And it's really around reframing the mind. Okay, I know IT is asked for this spend, or we are spending this per month, per year. But what is it actually doing for the business? What objective is it accomplishing? Is it driving new business? Things like that.
That makes sense. So would it be safe to say that through this exercise, yes, the ultimate goal is to reduce costs, but ultimately you may find that spending more money would actually benefit the company?
Absolutely. And pairing with this ethos of cash positive in 2023, and I imagine and longer, there is this continued thread around doing more with less. And the first thing that comes to mind is, less, meaning I have less of something, so I'm not going to spend more money. That's not necessarily the case. What we're trying to say is do more with the investment that you have to maximize your business outcomes and your objectives. And so, yes, to that question, spending a little bit of time and investment can help a customer really transform their cloud costs and then recoup that back. In many cases, there are costs that are coming back to them.
Yeah, I think that goes back to and reinforces your point, having an unbiased view, a third party to come in and help you evaluate that operational model. will give you some clear guidance in one way to which way to go.
Absolutely. That's fair. Yes.
You talk about transformation and modernization a bit. Can we dig into that a little bit? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure everyone's tired of hearing this. It's been a term that's been around forever. And a lot of customers, we get it. We need transformation. We need to start acting like a software company and all those other buzzwords that come into play. But like we discussed earlier, there are many organizations that see IT as a cost center. That's where budgets go to die. But how do I continue to change my mindset and framework around adopting cloud, but doing so as a business partner, right? I get it. Cloud is complex. And fortunately for customers, they're actually correct. We were told as customers, right, putting my customer hat on from the vendors back in the early cloud days, come to the cloud. It's cheaper. It's more beneficial for you. Move from your capital expenditure to an OpEx perspective. And then quickly those costs grew. And they didn't continue on that transformational journey to then look at things like, all right, well, did I continue my traditional deployment models in the cloud, which means things like standard compute, storage, et cetera, instead of leveraging platform as a service, microservices, things like Kubernetes, et cetera? Or did I even change my procurement methods? Everyone can just spin up and start consuming cloud resources on demand anytime they need it. So there's still a little bit of work to be done there, but at the same time, I don't think that the fault is solely on the customer. It really is an understanding of cloud can be complex, and then how do I make that clear for me and make those right decisions?
Right on, right on. So for customers who have moved into the cloud or moving to the cloud, lift and shift is an easy first step. It's probably a good first step, but you can't stop there. You have to continue to develop, to modernize, to adopt new technologies to make things more efficient, and therefore, ideally, reduce your costs and increase your ROI. I got that
Absolutely.
right?
Yes, absolutely. It's an evolution. It's a journey.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot to unpack. Just that whole modernization, that next step there. Let's save that for another conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we've covered a lot here. Now, the more than ever, I think doing more with less is the common theme you're telling me. I got that right?
It is.
Yeah, evaluating your cloud and optimizing it, it's complicated, and you need to take an unbiased approach, bring in other people to help you, other resources, other parties to, but ultimately it will pay off if it's done right.
Yes,
is that right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Good. Any other thoughts here?
Start with scope. Once you understand the scope, you can understand the impact and that optimization strategy for you. And then if you want to start getting into that ROI, TCO conversation, leverage a strategic partner like TierPoint, and we can help you get clarity on those pictures for you.
And help you weather this recession storm that is a coming.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, it's here. We're right through it.
Right on. Hey, Adam, I want to thank you very much for joining us. Adam Lawson, Cloud Solutions Architect here at TierPoint. If you're interested in talking to Adam, give us a call. I'm sure he'd be happy to discuss some of the different ways you can move forward with your cloud strategy.
Thanks, Dimitri.
Thank you, Adam.